Hello, YouTubers. Welcome to Level-Headed News. I'm your host, Brenda, and I've got a lot of news for you. This particular episode, this is going to have to do with some WikiLeaks and some Hillary and some fake news um, and some election deniers. There's a lot of things here, so let me get started into them. The very first one's off of truthfeed.com, and it is entitled WikiLeaks Bombshell. TV host Stephen Colbert took programming orders directly from the Clinton team. Actually, I have two of these articles, so this is the first of two. And it reads, WikiLeaks has uncovered more collusion between media liberals and the Democrats. A newly discovered email exposes Stephen Colbert and John Podesta working together to push Clinton Global Initiative, CGI, as far back as 2013. From Red Alert, it states Stephen Colbert role as the conservative newsman on the Comedy Central hit show The Colbert Report was a prime source of news for many millennials. It was also a chief avenue of propaganda for the Clintons years before Hillary ran for president. WikiLeaks revealed on Tuesday that Colbert and his team at Comedy Central were making episodes at the request or order of the Clinton Global Initiative, CGI, back in April of 2013. Craig Massanan of Clinton Group emailed John Podesta, the close ally and future campaign manager for Hillary, to see if he saw a specific episode of the show that they pitched. I hope you got a chance to see the Colbert Report's two special episodes I had them do about CGI that we taped in St. Louis this weekend, Minasan said in the email. This is the link to last night's with a sketch about commitments and monologue and WJC, which is Bill Clinton, interview aired Monday. Hope you enjoy and looking forward to your feedback. Next will be your Colbert appearance, unquote. Colbert was always very obviously liberal and supportive of Hillary throughout the election, but no one knew his team was doing her and Bill's PR work at their order. And there is a link to that email here if you want to pull that up and take a look at that. All these URLs are in the description of the video for you. It says, while I wouldn't label what Colbert does news, however, many people used Comedy Central as their news source. This once again proves that everything the liberal media pumps out hatches from the underbelly of the DNC and is propaganda media from a North Korean-style government-run operation. Amy Moreno is a published author, and she's the one that wrote this article. So there you have that one. The next one I have is off of Regated, and it says, WikiLeaks Colbert report took orders from Clinton Global Initiative. An overlooked WikiLeaks email revealed Comedy Central, the Colbert report, took orders from the Clinton Global Initiative to produce full episodes in April of 2013. In the email, Craig Minasan of CGI wrote to John Podesta, longtime Clinton ally and future chairman of her failed 2016 presidential campaign, inquiring whether Podesta had seen any of the episodes made at the bequest of CGI. Colbert Report was a powerhouse of Comedy Central, with many millennials tuning in to the Colbert's personified conservative views and his take on U.S. news. The show had massive brand recognition, which possibly explains why CGI targeted it for custom episodes. And this article goes on if you want to read more about it. But it's pretty much the same as what we read in the last one. The next one here is off of LibertyWritersNews.com, and it says, Hillary is in hell after seeing huge news story about Trump recount today. Hillary Clinton really had her hopes high for this recount. Heaven for her would to have been winning, because the recount said that somehow Trump cheated in the election. Well, Hillary Clinton, welcome to hell. The recount from Wisconsin is already coming in, and the results are looking very promising for Donald Trump. Trump is about to win Wisconsin even by more than he had originally. Originally, Donald Trump had managed to win the state by 22,871 votes. Thanks to the recount, over 23,000 and still growing. Hillary Clinton, on the other hand, had already begun losing votes, 41 and counting so far. Whoops. My guess is if they bother to do a recount, you will be seeing a lot more of this. In case you are wondering why the recounts have a good chance to favor Trump, the answer is simple. Hillary had reasons to cheat the voters in her favor. So there you have that one. The next one we have is off BizPac Review, and it says Hillary hammers fake news in second post-election speech, then gets pounded by her own massive hypocrisy. On Thursday, Hillary Clinton gave her second public post-election speech, this time to Congress to honor retiring Senate Minority Leader Harry Reid. After complimenting the retiring senator, Clinton couldn't resist the opportunity to toss out yet another excuse for her November election defeat to Donald Trump. You guessed it, the epidemic of fake news. Clinton called on Congress to stop the epidemic of malicious fake news and false propaganda that flooded social media over the past year, because it is, unlike apparently things like Islamic extremism, a danger to the nation. Referring to Edgar Welch's firing of an AR-15 rifle inside Washington Pizzeria Comet Ping Pong on Sunday in response to fake news story about Clinton's campaign manager John Podesta running a child sex ring there, Clinton said, "It's now clear that so-called fake news can have real-world consequences that must be addressed quickly," Clinton said. Bipartisan legislation is making its way through Congress to boost the government's response to foreign propaganda, and Silicon Valley is starting to grapple with the challenge and make threat of fake news. Predictably, Twitter users were eager to point out the former Democratic nominee's massive hypocrisy. And it shows these tweets here. I'll grab one here. It says, "I honestly want to know specifically which hashtag fake news story cost Hillary the election." There's a whole bunch of them if you want to pull that up and take a look at them. Comedy at its finest. The next one we have here is the last line of defense.org. It says, "Ha! Obama falls for fake news story, makes a fool of himself in front of millions." Who's been attacking right-wing news outlets and blogs for supposedly posting fake news, otherwise known as truth, about him and his wasted time administration, just fell victim to some fake news of his own. The left is obsessed with taking anything and everything the right tweets and turning it into something it's not. One of the best at this game of bait and switch is the lying fake news site. They regularly post headlines about Trump being furious and his campaign or presidency coming to an end. They have on multiple occasions claimed Trump was going to be indicted. Barack Obama came across a story on their page that is absolutely fake and decided he'd tweet it out so millions of jerks who follow him could be duped by more of the lies of the left. Here's a screenshot of the tweet, which was deleted less than 8 minutes after someone must have pointed out that he was posting garbage from a garbage dump. And it's on here if you want to take a look at it. It says, "What a dumb thing to tweet. Just 8 minutes. It was retweeted and liked over 30,000 times, meaning it probably has reached millions of gullible liberals who will believe anything they read on the internet." Sad, isn't it? And the tweet reads, "Trump team, we want to crash the entire market, send it all coming down. Lord have mercy." So, off conservativetribune.com, and it says, fake news. CNN caught using fake headline to smear Trump and Carson. CNN just tried to trick Americans into thinking that Dr. Ben Carson had turned against President-elect Donald Trump. In fact, what happened was a strong of Trump was praising the president-elect's choice of a non-Caucasian woman for key office. CNN posted a fake news headline on their website, "Carson, Trump in private betrays public rhetoric. Click on the article that they see what the post is actually about, and it's not related to Ben Carson at all. In fact, the article is about President-elect Trump's selection of South Carolina's Governor Nikki Haley for the UN ambassadorship. In the interview, Democrat Congressman Andre Carson defended Trump's selection of Haley to CNN's I'm not sure how to pronounce it, Scudio, the idea that Trump's choice of Haley was at odds with Trump's public image. More women to participate in the political process, Carson said. There was no mention of Ben Carson in the interview, not one part of the interview as much as mentioned the famous neurosurgeon's name, but by using a name of much more obscure public figure named Carson, CNN led readers to believe Dr. Carson was one, and the wording of the headline in that context read like a reference to Trump being two-faced. I want to pull it up to take a look at the video. CNN, in other words, was stooping to sensationalism and fakery. However, fake news hasn't seemed to work too well in recent days. Fake news stories spurred one lunatic to fire a rifle inside a pizza restaurant, all apparently because he believed story about Pizzagate. According to the New York Times, North Carolina man opened fire in Washington, D.C. pizza joint after he heard fake reports that Hillary Clinton ran a child trafficking site out of the restaurant. Now he's bars as he should be. CNN could be more careful when writing their headlines, as it's been proven that fake news stories and headlines can motivate dangerous criminal acts. It's hypocritical of CNN to post fake news headlines when the liberal media consistently berate conservative-leaning sites for supporting fake news. U.S. News even right-leaning, promoting propaganda. It seems that liberal news sites are guilty of the same thing they accuse others of doing. Article that I have for you is off of Natural News, and it says, fake news hysteria hinges on laughable assumption that corporate-run media have monopoly on the facts. This insidious assumption behind fake news accusations being flung far and wide by the fake stream media, CNN, NPR, Washington Post, New York Times, and etc., is that somehow the corporate media has a divine monopoly on facts. The assumption is ludicrously when MSNBC rolls out convicted liar Brian Williams to decry fake news. Find any fake news propagandist who churned out more fake news than Brian Williams, and he's still working at MSNBC. Back in early 2015, Breitbart News presented a list of at least 32 times that M News let Williams present such fake news to the American people, lies and disputed stories, including his false claims about being a helicopter being in a helicopter that was hit by an RPG, reports Breitbart.com. One of the news media giants accused of publishing fake news by the collapsing mainstream media. Stories about SEAL Team 6, the fall of the Berlin Wall, the Pope, Hurricane Katrina, quitting college, rescuing a puppy from a house fire, and more, Breitbart continues. If the media establishment only tells the truth, why are so many of their news reports obviously faked? If the corporate-run media really had some sort of divine monopoly on facts, then none of us would be able to find examples of laughably fake news on their websites, would we? Yet even the Washington Post has now been exposed for, if you can believe it, faking a news story about fake news. Investigation can go right down the list. CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, Huffington Post, LA Times, USA Today, NPR, MSNBC, Fox News, and so on. News organizations has run genuinely fake news while claiming it was fact. It's not even difficult to find examples of these organizations deliberately fabricating fake news in order to alter the outcome of the recent election. Nearly all of them reported, for example, some variation of the absurd claim that Donald Trump can't win the election. These are also the same fake news organizations that obediently and enthusiastically repeated Obama's fabricated claims about Obamacare. Remember, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Or how about the claim Obamacare will save American families $2,500 a year on average? Glaring examples of fake news. They were known to be false at the time they were published by the corporate-run media. The media fakes the news, censorship of important stories they don't want you to learn. And then there are the stories the entire fake stream media censors don't want anyone to learn about the actual facts. As a particularly egregious example, it is established fact that CDC scientist Dr. William Thompson publicly admitted to falsifying scientific data at the CDC to obscure the statistical link between vaccines and autism in African Americans. Indisputable, it's also an incredibly important piece of news for the health care of all Americans. Media cover that story? Not by a long shot. They censored it. Every single fake stream media organization across the country obediently blackballed the story. It's obviously coordinated, deliberate, and malicious. Of important facts is another way the insidious corporate-run media lies to viewers. Hilarious videos of CNN staging fake locations, fake missile attacks, and fake CNN has forever theatrics and false reporting to influence public opinion rather than report the news. Perhaps the most hilarious example of dishonest CNN fakery is Charles Jocko's video from the first Gulf War. In order to pretend to be covering the Gulf War from a live set in Saudi Arabia, CNN built a Saudi stage and faked a Scud missile attack on its news anchor, Charles Jocko. Hilarious, as the video shows below. While Charles Jocko grabs a gas mask, his co-anchor grabs a helmet. See the 7-minute mark in the video below. It's funnier than a really bad SNL skit. So you can pull that one up and take a look at it at your leisure. It says, remember, this was all broadcast to CNN Live, where CNN literally pretended this was all real and true, faking the news of CNN. And there are countless examples of network going out of its way to stage fake sets, fake locations, and even use actors following mass shootings to make sure proper narrative is delivered to the public. For example, this video interview reveals a comprehensive collection of CNN news fakery, such as a bizarre moment when CNN anchor tries to pretend they are not in the same parking lot. And so there's another video to make you chuckle. That incident, detailed in this UK Daily Mail article, involved a CNN anchor and guest desperately trying to pretend they were broadcasting live from distant locations, when in reality they were in the exact same parking lot. This is evidenced by the simple fact that the exact same vehicles passed behind them in the exact same sequence. CNN frequently uses green screens to fake locations. The hilarious video below shows CNN building an entire fake ship on a green screen set to try to create the illusion that there are reporters on the scene in a Black Sea covering a U.S. warship near the Ukraine. During the hilariously bad fake set report, the CNN journalist even points off in the distance behind him to try to make the green screen illusion more convincing. You'll discover another jaw-dropping compilation of fake scripted news from mainstream media in this next video, covering media fakery involving the Gulf War, the defamation of Ron Paul, 9/11 attacks, bin Laden, and more. So there's another video you can watch. It says the entire Sandy Hook mass shooting narrative was deeply layered in all sorts of CNN fakery, including the use of actors who were told to read lines while sobbing uncontrollably for maximum effect. In one case, a cheerful white man is laughing it up in the background. to approach the microphone to speak on camera starts hyperventilating and crying while reading his obviously scripted lines. The guy turns out to be a professional actor. In the same video shown below, another actor is caught on a hot mic asking, "Do you want me to read the card?" right before sobbing on camera, playing the part of a grieving parent. Yet another Sandy Hook news hoax was the use of David Wheeler, a professional actor, as both grieving parent and SWAT team sniper. As with the other actors rolled out for CNN's camera, this professional actor performed scripted role in order to evoke a powerful emotional response with the sole purpose of repealing the Second Amendment, a necessary step before America can be overrun and controlled by radical leftist communists. Sniper rifle upside down by the magazine makes it laughably obnoxious to anyone familiar with firearms that he has absolutely no clue how to carry a rifle. Run media has done nothing but fake the news for decades. Search YouTube for terms like CNN green screen or crisis actors or Sandy Hook or faked news, and you can spend hour after hour watching clear examples of outlandish news fakery by mainstream media. It doesn't take long for any intelligent, clear-thinking individual to realize the mainstream media has been faking news for decades. CNN, in fact, can be the best described as fake news theater organization pretending to be engaged in legitimate journalism. I even recorded a podcast on this very subject discussing all news fakery subjected to over the years by deliberate fabrications of corporate controlled media. Come to think of it, you probably need to go back and revisit what you think is really true about many historic events covered by the lying media. Oklahoma City, 9/11, the assassination of JFK, and even the nuking of Japan in World War II. In every case, what was reported by the lying mainstream media was a scripted narrative, not a serious investigation into what happened. And he has his podcast here if you want to take a listen to that. So that's a pretty good article there on fake news. The next one we have is off of BizPac Review, and it says, Senate Dems accused of soft bigotry after reports find Republicans' staff is more diverse. Senate Democrats are under pressure to bring more diversity to their offices after a report came out accusing the party of soft bigotry. Despite sounding the clarion call for more diversity and aggressively pursuing even the slightest whiff of radical bigotry over the last years, Dems are apparently scrambling to mix up the whiteness in their offices, Politico's playbook covered today in a short blurb. On top of having no minority chiefs on staff, less than 3% of blacks and Latinos have senior staff positions in Senate Democrat offices, according to a 2015 report from Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies. Now, Senate Democrats are under pressure to fix their diversity issues as activists and civil rights groups mobilize against them. Some civil rights groups plan to hold a conference call Thursday to campaign for more diversity in Senate Democrats' offices. Some lobbyists have said that they plan to focus on Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee since the DSCC makes money from minority lobbyists. They should be at least hiring minorities to staff positions, said one lobbyist. As minority lobbyists, we know we invest in the DSCC directly, financially, and we want them to, in return, invest in us as a community and not just take our money and then when they make decisions on who to hire as vendors and staff, look the other way, Oscar Ramirez declared, a Podesta Group lobbyist. Despite claims of being the party of diversity, it turns out that a Republican senator actually has the most diverse office in the Senate, according to an investigation by New York Daily News writer Sean King. Senator Tim Scott from South Carolina has the only black chief of staff in the Senate, according to a Democratic staffer. Tim Scott, the lone black chief of staff in the entire United State Senate works for South Carolina Republican Tim Scott. His office may be the most diverse in the entire Senate, the staffer maintained. The final article that I have for you today is off of Regated.com, and it says, Election Deniers, What the Left Has Left. While election deniers run amok with accusations of riggery or Russian hacking, I have grinned for weeks on post-election bliss. I feel so uplifted, optimistic, and energized by a Trump presidency, and I'm not alone. The markets are on fire. CNBC reports the election of Donald Trump has brought with it a surge of optimism in the United States over the economy and stocks not seen in years. Trump is already fulfilling campaign promises. Apple may produce iPhones stateside. Carrier and Trump forged a deal to save U.S. jobs, which Huffington Post called mildly popular. Wand Goff made him look even more useless. Leftists won't stop crying and denying they're and faking hate crimes or attacking Trump supporters in broad daylight. For this past month, the collective psychotic break among butthurt leftists fascinates me. Leftists are unable to that they've lost. They continue to blame white supremacy, Putin, the FBI, or fake news. They throw millions of dollars at Jill Stein's recount without hope of refund or results. Democratic leadership is in shambles. Nancy Pelosi somehow kept her leadership role among the House Democrats. The next DNC chair might be Keith Ellison of Minnesota, who wants an all-black country segregated from and paid for by white Americans. Quarter Chinese, part Mexican, mostly white discount. It is even funnier. Hillary was exiled to sort of relevance laced with fake hiking selfies with strangers she's met before, or we see Hillary in a grocery store selfie with a friend posing as a stranger as if an arrogant mansplainer. Obama just ordered a review of Russian election related hacking whatsoever that Russia did anything nefarious to affect the election. Consider that if Russia somehow affected the election, they did so under Obama's reign, which only makes him a bigger failure. Are we supposed to believe our Democratic president can't secure our country's most sacred act of voting, and that we should continue his legacy of failed national security with Hillary dream of a hemispheric common market? Trump's win the bitch slap they deserved for decades. Didn't just shrug, or try this again. Atlas didn't just shrug. He pissed all over the DNC before curb stomping CNN and skinning political correctness alive. Political class is dead, and doers are descending on Washington to drain the swamp. Deniers, I say, never change. This tiny sampling of your cringe-inducing party pooping only is hopefully only the beginning. Your stupidity is growing my party's base. Your insanity is why liberal friends of mine confide privately that they regret voting for Hillary. One called it a moral crisis. She couldn't shake it for weeks as she saw the riots and broken windows in Portland. Inauguration day, I expect an epic war between bikers for Trump and whichever insane social justice warriors actually heed Michael Moore's call for inauguration violence. A symbolic conflict so juicy even Martin would blush. Just imagine a biker chick named Butch Banshee suppressing a 145-pound genderqueer waif from Westland as Trump accepts his presidency. What better symbolism for the new Trump era than that? I'll conclude this episode, and I'll have more news for you today. I've still got a pile of articles.